Prepare to dive into a new book. The Star Trek Book of Friendship is hitting shelves soon, and we're thrilled both authors Robb Pearlman and Jordan Hoffman are here to give it a plug.
This is a Trekzone conversation.
It's certainly a cracking read. I'm only a few pages in, but already I'm chomping at the bit to see where the adventure takes me from Kirk and Spock, Picard and Data, Janeway and Seven of Nine. This is a novel celebrating Star Trek's most enduring friendships. Authors Robb and Jordan, thanks for a little bit of your time to have a Trekzone conversation.
Hey, it's a thrill to be here in the Trekzone with you. It's my favorite zone to be in. The Twilight Zone to take a hike. I prefer the Trekzone.
You are too kind, Jordan, too kind at all. Robb, let's start with you, my friend. Can you tell us where the idea for the book came from?
The idea for the Star Trek Book of Friendship came a few years ago. I was at a Comic-Con and realized as I was looking around at the crowd how many deep and meaningful friendships were formed by fans over Star Trek. And these are people from all parts of the world, all parts of the country, all ages, and they were all gathered together for their mutual love of Star Trek. And I thought, there must be something here, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. And the more I was thinking about it, the more I thought, wow, there are so many deep and meaningful friendships within Star Trek, and that's what people really love about the show, in addition to everything else there is to love about it.
Well, Jordan, when a book starts with Ethan Phillips and Robert Picardo, you know we're in for a good time. Was it difficult to get the pair together to put pen to a conversation?
Not at all. So yes, they very generously offered some of their time to create the foreword for us. And you know, the format of the book is Robb and I, who are Star Trek friends that have met on the Star Trek circuit, so to speak, at various conventions. We're just having a conversation about all the characters we love and how they relate to one another. Like you mentioned, Kirk and Spock, Data, Picard, Janeway and B'Elanna, down the line. And one of those very important friendships is Neelix and the Doctor. And as it happens, those two guys, Ethan Phillips and Robert Picardo, are very, very close friends in real life. And they were beforehand. I mean, so many of the Star Trek alum are great friends now. I mean, you know, Jonathan Frakes and Patrick Stewart love one another, but they met on the show. These two guys knew each other beforehand. They had a whole history, and then they finally got a chance to work with one another. Now, as it happens, Robb and I, as I mentioned, we've been on this sort of the Star Trek circuit doing conventions over the years and the Star Trek cruise. Robb presenting a lot of his earlier books. I moderate a lot of panels, and I've gotten to know some of the actors, and these guys, I've gotten to know them pretty well because they are just so much fun. And I live in New York, and Ethan lives in New York, and Bob used to live in New York. And, you know, it was just a quick email like, hey, we're doing this book. Do you want to do the forward? And they said yes. And also what we're doing is we are donating a proceed of the book to the Planetary Society, which is an organization that Bob has been involved with for years. This is the sort of science and education group that Carl Sagan founded, that Bob Picardo is on the board of the Council of 12. I don't know exactly what the name of the board is, but he's one of the guys on the, spearheading the movement. You know, he does a lot of promotion for them, and so we're happy to give some of the proceeds to that group.
Well, Robb, the book covers across the franchise. Like I mentioned, you know, Kirk and Spock, but we also have Nog and Jake, Janeway and Tuvok, Wesley and Data, and many others in a conversation style between the pair of you. How long did it take to research everything, knowing just how specific Trek fandom is?
You know, I think our research has been going on for the last 20 years or so because we're such Star Trek fans from back in the day. Neither Jordan nor I were around when the original series first aired, but we were very large consumers of it in reruns and in syndication. So we've been thinking about this and probably having this conversation with ourselves for years and years. When we were starting to think about what the book should be, we were having a bunch of Zoom conversations at the beginning of the pandemic. And at one point, I just said, this is the book. this is what it is. It's just us talking about all of the things and the friendships that we love about it. So I don't think we really did that much research unless we thought we perhaps misspoke about an episode title. But it came pretty naturally.
What makes the book work, and if I may say so, is because it is a natural conversation. It's two people who really love this stuff saying, oh, but if you want to talk about how Bones and Spock are frenemies, then you got to remember X and you got to remember Y, and kind of really getting into it. I think what we did is, because it was a number of conversations stretched out over some weeks, because we had plenty of time. It was the beginning of the pandemic and everybody was home. So we had scheduled weekly Zoom calls. So it wasn't a marathon session. It was like a call a week. And we knew it was like, next week we should really get into, let's talk about Enterprise. So let's make sure we, when was the last time you watched the episode where, Trip Tucker and Malcolm Reed are trapped in the shuttle pod? Been a while. Okay, so let's watch that again. So maybe that was, twist my arm, I have to rewatch a Star Trek episode. That was the amount of research.
Right.
Oh, how horrible. Or it's like, we wanted, obviously we have to talk about the subtitle of the book is "You Have Been and Always Shall Be My Friend." So yes, the subtitle of this book is "You Have Been and Always Shall Be My Friend." So, and on the back of the book, you have this image. So, any excuse to pop Wrath of Khan back in to rewatch it is good. Dim the lights, get some popcorn, get the handkerchief, because it always makes me, it's very illogical, but it always makes me cry. And I think that was the extent of the research. I can say that even if I weren't working on a Star Trek book, I may have been watching just as much Star Trek anyway, because it was a typical week. So,
and I think that's the brilliant thing about this as well. What I love, being a conversation, and the research is very difficult, especially in this regard, having to just sit down and watch Star Trek together on a bit of a Zoom watch-a-thon, as it were. And you two as well are Star Trek aficionados. Jordan, you were the host of the Star Trek official podcast. So there's a depth of knowledge there as well. And it really just comes down to a conversation between you and Rob about Star Trek.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and you don't have to be neck deep in lore to watch something and pick up on something fun. Like, I can sometimes be a little dense. I loved original series since I was a little kid, and it wasn't really until I met my wife 20 years ago, and she likes original series too. And something with Nurse Chapel happened, and she's like, "Oh, Nurse Chapel has such a crush on Spock." I'm like, does she? Like, I was like, what? I kind of missed the signals. And now it's like, duh, how did I not notice that? Like, she really does. Some of it is more explicit than others, but even when it's not. So, and she's not like a deep cut fan, there's plenty she hasn't seen, but she's kind of picked up on that. So, this is not only for hardcore, hardcore aficionados.
Well, a question for each of you. Let's start with you, Rob, as Ahsoka in the background wants something. Anyway, we will press on. Rob, what's your favorite bit in the book?
Oh my God, that's so hard to narrow it down. I've got a few, I think. The Spock and Bones frenemy section, I think, is one of my favorites. I love a good frenemy story. And I think the pairing of those, whenever they're on screen together, it just crackles for me. There's so many layers of friendship going on in those scenes, and text and subtext, and I just adore that completely. I think my second favorite may be Garak and Bashir, because I was really wanted that to get in there, and we found a way to do it really organically and naturally. And J.K. Woodward, who did all of the art, did this amazing original piece of art for that section too. So I think those might be my two favorite ones.
Definitely think JK's involvement. I mean, he's just you can look at the cover and this painting he made. And what's interesting about his artwork, and there's, I don't know the exact number, but a lot of original works in there. Some of them are basically reproductions of images from the show, and some of them are from his head. with little Easter eggs if you look closely. And of course, there is in the introduction, there's a picture of me and Rob, watching TV. That's supposed to be you're on the couch with us as we're watching. So I've got Spock ears and a TNG uniform, and Rob's got the Spock helmet, which was an actual licensed toy for 15 minutes in the 70s. And it's a lot of fun. So I think JK really knocked it out of the park. Also, we have Dr. Erin McDonald is involved in the book a little bit. She's another one of our Star Trek friends who we've met on the Star Trek convention circuit. She is a astrophysicist, and she is I don't know what is her exact title. She's a consultant. She's the science consultant across all of the current shows, Discoveries, Strange New Worlds, you name it. She gets the call in the middle of the night. It's like, wait, what exactly is a nebula, dwarf, blah, blah, blah. And she's got to answer that call. Because there was a section where we were writing about, I think we were specifically writing about Janeway and B'Elanna and their relationship as scientists, as women scientists. Rob and I are neither women nor scientists, but we knew one that we could call. So we called her up and said, hey, look, can you help us out here? Like, do you have any insight that two guys like us aren't going to get? And she was like, oh my God, and Voyager got her through her PhD program. I mean, she has a lot to say about it. So it was great to kind of hand her the mic and get her involvement. So that was a nice moment. And I think it kind of speaks to the larger issue, the larger topic of the book, which is like, if you know somebody, if you meet somebody, if you're on a plane, you sit down on a plane and you look over and you see that they have, a little IDIC pin or, if their bag has a little LCARS lettering on it, you go like, oh, that's a Star Trek fan. And you've got an instant connection. You can cut through so much, you can just break the ice and immediately start talking about Star Trek, and you have a real bond there. And I would imagine it's the same thing if somebody is a big fan of the New York Yankees, or wait, let me put that in Australian terms. Some rugby team, the All Blacks, right? The New Zealand All Blacks, right? So, or they're the bad guys. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. Well, all right. So
Wallabies.
That sounds like a made-up thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see it with sports people. It's like, oh, you like the Yankees? Oh my God, they got no pitching this year. What are they going to do? And suddenly these guys are best friends. Yeah. Now, I think you can do something similar with Star Trek. It's much better with Star Trek because you've got something more exciting to talk about. Like, the moment at the end of City on the Edge of Forever when Bones tries to rescue Edith Keeler and Kirk has to stop him. And he goes, Jim, I could have saved her. And Spock says, he knows, Captain, he knows. That to me is, something we could talk about over drinks for 3 hours. So that's what Star Trek can do.
And we did.
And we did. We will again.
Oh, that's a good question. Was there a bit of scotch being drunk during these recordings?
They were in the morning.
Not on my end, but they were in the morning, yeah.
That's okay. It's 5 o'clock.
I had to go to work.
Let's say not maybe scotch, but like maybe some cornflakes, piece of toast. Nice. I mean, it was morning, so but when you're talking Star Trek, the endorphins run so hot that you don't even need anything extra.
It's good context as well for when we pick up the book and have a look and know and be able to put you two into these places as we're talking about them. So we're sitting over the breakfast table with a bowl of cornflakes and not necessarily in the drafting room, as it were. It's good for context. Well, the book releases on May 10, just 5 days after Strange New Worlds premieres. Are you contemplating a second edition to cover the new friendships we're about to see?
If that's what the fans and the book buying public want, we are happy to oblige.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think I'm not allowed to say that I've seen some of Strange New Worlds already, and it's there's a lot to talk about. I think people are going to really dig it. So
yes, some lucky people have gotten 5-episode screeners. Very much looking forward to Strange New Worlds. Looking forward to the Star Trek Book of Friendship next month. For now, Jordan and Rob, thanks for having a little bit of a time to have a Trekzone conversation.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
This was a blast.